Birds fans, Harry Canary here. Welcome to Nirvana for your ears. It's Inside the Birdcage, the Sioux Falls Canaries podcast, with insight into the latest team developments, plus interviews and classic stories from colorful personalities of Canaries past and present, and your chance to win a free car. Just kidding about the free car part. This isn't The Price is Right. Just making sure you're still paying attention. An entertaining podcast will have to be enough. So pull up a Barcalounger and crack open a brew, because it's time to go inside the birdcage. Now brought to you by Pharmacy Specialties. Pharmacy Specialties, which brings you Super Thursday every second Thursday of every month. 20% off all of our products at Pharmacy Specialties in Sioux Falls. Call 334-1672. That's 334-1672 for Pharmacy Specialties. And now, here's your host of Inside the Birdcage, John Gaskins. By the way, Barcalounger, spelled backwards, is regular crab.
Thank you, Harry Canary, and welcome. We are literally inside the birdcage. We've moved it out of Duell's office into the pro shop. It's a new place to do our Inside the Birdcage podcast because it's a whole new ballgame here at the birdcage. Don't know if you heard, but since our last podcast last week, we had new owners. Somebody bought the team. Couple of guys, couple of awesome dudes out of the Twin Cities. One of them with Sioux Falls ties. They're the new owners, and Duell Higbe, our general manager, is going to tell us more about them. But they are promising a whole new ballgame at the birdcage. A lot of big, bold, bright things to come. You're going to have a lot more fun at the park. Not that it hasn't been fun. You're just going to have more fun. We have a lot of new things to tell you about, and we'll have more with the owners pretty soon on our next Inside the Birdcage podcast. But I am John Gaskins. Duell is busy in his office. You know, we're just recording on a work day here, and the man is busy, but you'll hear him in a moment. But speaking of bold and bright and new with the Sioux Falls Canaries, this is, look, I've had a lot of fun on the first 6 podcasts. We've had Mike Meyer. We've had our PA guy, Randy Preston. It's always good to get the news of the team and hear old stories about what's gone on at the birdcage for the last 30 or so years. But, man, it is a bold, bright, new day. Ladies and gentlemen, and for the first time on camera on Inside the Birdcage, we're excited to bring in the new voice of the Canaries. Get ready to ride the Zamboni, Joey Zanaboni.
John Gaskins, such a pleasure to be with you.
I did it. I was not intending to do this, but I do what everybody does when probably first reading or writing or pronouncing your name. Right, the Zamboni.
Well, not everybody, just 95%, just 95% of people. So you're part of a decent majority who do that. But listen, my friend, back in the day in Italy, we were all the same family. The Zambonis ended up wanting to clean the ice via machine. My branch of the family decided to keep doing it by hand. We wanted to stay old school. So we are the Zanabonis, and a lot to be proud of there.
The good news is your side of the family took that method on to inventing gelato ice cream, or gelato. Because it's not ice cream in Italy, it's just gelato. So, I mean, that served you and your family really well and brought a lot of color and joy to not only Italy, obviously, but the entire planet, which is obviously why we hired you as well, to bring color and joy, or to colorize and enhance the joy out at the birdcage and in our broadcasts.
Ready to bring the zest, the zen, the zeal, any other Z words we can come up with throughout the season, John. It is going to be a tremendous season, and I can't wait to get to work with you and get to work with Duell, the whole staff.
Yeah. Well, so by now, Canaries fans may have consumed and digested this news, and the video, the 54-second video, said it all. It was very you, and if you haven't seen it, I encourage people to check it out. But this is the Inside the Birdcage podcast. These are for our hardcore fans. In talk radio, we call them P1s.
The hardest core.
Yes. So chances are you're all about Joey Zanaboni already, and why wouldn't you be? But let's learn more about you. There was the press release, and it's up on our website still at sfcanaries.com, all the background information on Joey. But clearly, you make a splash. You viral and veteran. Those are the V words as part of the alliteration theme to describe Joey Zanaboni. The viral part is you're not
controversial in 2020, right? You don't want to be viral in 2020. But I don't know. I'm trying to bring it back. I guess it's 2021.
No, but it's 2021. This is the new and improved viral.
Yes.
You've kind of declared your mission statement on what you want to be and who you want to be. And this year, and hopefully beyond, but this summer, it's going to be for the Sioux Falls Canaries. So who and what, in essence, is Joey Zanaboni?
Well, Joey Zanaboni, I'd like to think that I'm on the edges of wherever you're thinking. I want to push boundaries. I want to take baseball announcing into the next 100 years. I think when we look back on baseball announcing, it's still in its infancy. Some people maybe have written it off as an art form that's already starting to shrivel with maybe the decline of sports being consumed solely by the radio with the rise of television and now with the rise of internet streaming. I think there are many people who feel like the glory days have passed. I'm not one of those people. I think baseball announcing is right at the top of the wave of sort of the first wave, but the second wave is going to be even bigger. It's going to be even better. It's going to be more rooted in self-expression. It's going to be rooted more in individualism. People in today's world have the opportunity to broadcast a baseball game anywhere, anytime. We have the tremendous privilege of not even having to go to a baseball stadium to announce a game of baseball. And I want my work to express my individualism and also the reality of the world that we're living in. It's a little more fragmented with the rise of the internet. It's not necessarily the sort of single stream, old radio tower, man in a suit with one microphone. I like to infuse it with a sense of tradition, but really I like to infuse it with the sense of reality that millennials and Gen Z have grown up with. And so I consider myself to be the Kevin Harlan of Generation Z. I want to be to them what Kevin Harlan has been to my generation, exciting and full of life, zeal, and full of joy. I live my life by the Walt Whitman quote, "Do anything, but let it produce joy." And when I look at my work, as long as I hear that feeling, as long as I hear that joy underneath whatever I'm saying, then I know I'm on the right track. And that's my theme this year with the Sioux Falls Canaries. Can I do my best every single day, every single night at the stadium to bring that joy, to bring that happiness right into people's homes? And I want to get out into the Sioux Falls community. I want to get out in restaurants. I want to get out in bars. I want to get out among the community centers. I want to have Sioux Falls baseball streaming everywhere. I want a canary in every cage in South Dakota. And I'm not going to rest until I'm able to put him there.
He's going to go to your house. And
in the dead of night, baby.
Yes. and he's going to ask you if you have a bird or if you just have a cage. And if the cage does not have a canary in it, he's going to do something about it. I mean,
that's right.
The name's Joey Zanaboni. That has a lot of, that has a big, bright, like I said, splash to it. But, just a tinge of, you don't want to mess with this guy. So you better have a canary in that damn thing.
Well, when you have
he knows some people.
When you have a name like Joey Zanaboni, you really have to become a baseball announcer. That's pretty much on the birth certificate. When the name rhymes like that, you have to get into radio. So I've been destined to do these things in Sioux Falls, and I'm going to bring that sense of fate up to the Canaries. Yeah.
Well, okay. So first of all, as far as I know, you're the first broadcaster to quote Walt Whitman, at least in an introductory sort of setting where we're just, getting to know
right?
Said broadcaster. And you mentioned Kevin Harlan. I would say I'd say you're definitely some Kevin Harlan with some Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Cast in there,
Kevin Harlan.
Yeah. How did well, before I ask how has the catchphrase thing, and I don't know if you like me calling it catchphrases or not, because that's a lot of the video that made you viral this 2020, 2021 off season. That certainly caught our attention, and a big reason why you're here. You've clearly displayed you go beyond that video. But where did this development of saying things you just have never heard from a baseball announcer or really a sports announcer, where did it come from? Where did it start? I'd love that. That's, of course, you're going to learn from me. I can be a little long-winded, just like a former president can. Explain those. Give us a couple of examples of those, and then we'll talk about how this style developed.
Yeah, the origin story. Well, I think it's really rooted in experience. I worked in the Frontier League with the River City Rascals in 2014, the Rockford Aviators 2015, and then I was with the Texas Airhogs of the American Association from 2016 through 2018. And I was doing professional baseball in the summer, and I was doing quite a bit of college baseball in the springs. And I ended up at the University of West Florida. And I remember I was doing a tournament actually with just some neutral teams. It wasn't even West Florida playing. And I was using all these homespun phrases that I had just developed. I had repeated these phrases many times, but they were maybe off the beaten path kind of for other announcers. And I just noticed that the 18 to 21-year-olds who were working in the press box on a volunteer basis were really laughing at them, and they thought they were funny. And so in addition to cutting up some highlights from that tournament, I ended up just going back and cutting up the little one-liners and the little catchphrases, and it caught on. It kind of made a splash in that community, and I saw that, boy, this really brings them quite a bit of joy. And up to that point, like I said, I had some phrases that I would just repeat kind of every game, and I started to challenge myself to just say, hey, can I keep these fresh? Can I come up with new stuff basically every night? Maybe there's some stuff that I recycle, but can I come up with a lot of new stuff as well and keep people on their toes? I do think that cliches are the mortal enemy of the linguist, right? I was a literature major in college, and so much of the discussion around literature and creative writing was about how do we root cliches out of our work. And I consider myself kind of a scuba diver. I'm going down into the river, I'm finding the sunken barge, the kind of standard phrases, bashing it like, crushing it like, sending them away like. And I'm saying, how can I put a new twist on these? How can I kind of honor that baseball tradition, but infuse them with a more modern sense? So I give people like Ariana Grande a shout out quite a bit. You know, she's a favorite of mine. Hopefully she's out there listening to our podcast right now. Just making references that maybe would be appealing to younger fans and having a sense of the game, a knowledge of the game, and respect for the tradition that maybe is appealing to the older fans as well. And I do my best for everybody. And I think that they just catch on. They just have a lot of fun. I do think people's attention spans in this day and age are more directed toward shorter clips. And so I kind of identified that as something that could both help the teams that I'm working for, as well as help myself in my career to make sure that not only are they available in the 3-hour long video file of our latest game, but that they're available in bite-sized form as well. It's just like Applebee's. You toss out a piece of broccoli or two outside the door, you might just get somebody to come in and buy a full meal. So that's been my kind of plan, my game plan. And I think it's had some good success. I think that sometimes I do worry that people think that I'm just Mr. Wacky, one-liner, Brockmire, Harry Doyle, but I always invite them to listen to the games themselves, which are really what I invest myself most fully in. And I think they'll find that the joy is there, the passion is there, and the care is there. I think I really genuinely care about the people that I work with, the teams, the coaches, and the front office staffs. And I think when you have that, you just speak from the heart. It always comes out right.
Joey Zanaboni is our guest inside the Birdcage. I said it again. God, thankfully Duell is here. Joey Zanaboni, the new voice of the Sioux Falls Canaries, is our guest here on Inside the Birdcage. If I can't get it right, how are the fans going to get it right?
Oh, I hardly even noticed, John. Don't beat yourself up.
Because, okay, so we've had Whitman, we've had a little Ariana Grande, and now Applebee's. Just put this in the back of your mind for later in the podcast. If Kevin Harlan, Ariana Grande, and Harry Canary walked into Applebee's, what would they order and what would they talk about? Maybe we can close our eyes and imagine all of that. But this is the organic fun. And did you write down Ariana Grande and Applebee's before this interview, or is this what happens on a Joey Zanaboni broadcast? They just
no, John. I just woke up at a bus stop this morning and hopped on with you, my friend. Don't think I'm pre-planning any of this.
Exactly.
Well, right. Applebee's is never far from my mind. Ariana Grande, she gets a little far from my mind sometimes, but Applebee's, hey, baby, I never stop thinking about that great chain.
They really have great 2 for $20 deals. So with that in mind, Duell and I, both of us first saw you. I think he, sent me a clip. He's like, hey, what do you think of this guy? Because we were looking for a new voice of the Canaries. And, I saw the one of yours. How many views are we at now with your 2 minutes?
Oh boy.
Oh, don't blush.
You're talking about the first millennial sports announcer. Follow me on Twitter at Joey_Zana. Find out for yourself. Oh, I think the last time I checked, I was 300 some odd thousand views. It got picked up by CBS Sports on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. It got a bunch more views, and it kind of just got out of hand after that. I stopped counting and follow on Twitter though, folks. Let me drop that in one more time.
Sure,
at Joey_Zana. Find out why I'm the first millennial sports announcer.
Well, this is part of why you're here, is because you're hopefully helping usher in a whole new audience with your abilities at that. But to paraphrase Lou Brown from Major League, the manager,
right?
When first seeing Charlie Sheen's character, what's his name? Wild Thing, Rick Vaughn at spring training. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say Duell said it in this way because it's actually an email when he made me aware of you. But so he didn't say it in the same tone because he was writing it first of all. But basically, it was kind of like, get a load of this.
Right. And, John, can you curse on this podcast?
Get a load of this fucking guy. Can we curse? I just did it. Okay, well, we can edit that. The big boss man is here, by the way. Come on in, Duell.
Come on in.
I looked at it and I said, okay, yeah, this guy's hilarious. This is great. This is entertaining. What does there's Duell, the general manager, their very first televised Inside the Birdcage podcast. Yeah. Oh man, the handsome quota is through the roof now. It was really good. Now,
right, I'll leave and let it go up even more. I'll just get out of here.
Just watch like the numbers in this portion of the podcast. I said, this is great. Let's hear what he sounds like for like an inning at least, because he can't be like this an entire game. That would weird people out. And so lo and behold, I listened to it and I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy can call a baseball game. And from there, we both talked to you, and here you are. You're the new voice of the Canaries. But I'll let Duell now speak for himself. Just you're the big boss man. You had to pull the trigger on this thing. So why is Joey here?
Well, we've got a mutual acquaintance right away. That's when we first kind of heard about you. I mean, outside of knowing who you were through with the air hogs and whatnot, but our good friend, I don't know if anybody wants to claim him, John Witt, our clubhouse, brought you up, and we're like, all right, you know what, this might be an absolutely perfect fit here for what we're really trying to do here in 2021. I think with you, Twan, one of our new owners, and John are just going to bring a whole new level entertainment, exciting content throughout the summer. That's one thing that really excited me the most. And to John's point, when I first kind of heard some of your stuff, I was like, wow, this is completely different. This is just completely different. John, you got all this experience, in calling games and on air, on the radio. What do you think? And right away we're like, oh my gosh, this is just completely different. And then he talked to you, and I talked to him right after, and his couple words were,
No, don't tell him. Don't tell him what I said. Go ahead.
It's what sold me. He said, he's brilliant. We got to have him.
Oh, well, that's so nice.
Once we got John's blessing and his opinion, I mean, it was a no-brainer at that point. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you, John. I was expecting another curse word there, so that was kind of refreshing.
Well, yeah, and it was, and that was after that was probably right after I got off the phone with you. I don't know if you'd call it an interview, because Duell's the one doing the interviewing, but get a feel, and much to the point of Whitman. You did quote Whitman during that chat, but also Zen Buddhism and what was it, Asian meditation music. Amongst those things and others, I was like, okay, this is my kind of guy, and we need to bring a little bit more of this to the Birdcage. Not that between every innings we're going to be playing Asian meditation music, but that wouldn't be a bad thing to sprinkle in every once in a while.
I got a Taoist flute album that might change your mind on that, John. It's pretty hot, okay? Ariana Grande might be she might be a little bit jealous once we start playing that. So
let's write this down. Tao Flutist Night.
This is
Friday.
Hey, Harry's moment is that.
Well, this is an emerging trend, though, in minor league baseball. I think is kind of a peaceful, meditative area to watch the game. I know the Daytona Tortugas over the last few years have done Bob Ross painting during the game. So it's kind of a wine and painting, but very Bob Ross infused, of kind of gentle music and fun. And with yoga at the ballpark and things, I think there's a great opportunity to actually explore some of those areas and give people just a little bit of a different angle on the game. I think my philosophy on baseball and baseball announcing has been, it can really be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't mean you're going to go in every single direction that pops in your mind, but getting off that beaten path a little bit can really open some things up.
Yeah, and that's one thing talking with a lot of our season ticket holders and folks that come out to our games. I mean, they're out just to get away, just to have a good time. I mean, what better way to enjoy a beautiful Wednesday night, getting away from the kids, bring your wife out to the ballpark, and just taking a ball game in the sunshine and have a couple beers or soda pops or whatever, and just get away, relax. And that's what it's all about, I think. So
I could not be more excited.
I heard somebody rustling around back there. I think Harry's in the office now. So
here he comes.
What a guy. I tell you what, you two are going to get along pretty darn well. That dude is something else.
I know
What's your opinion of him, Joey? What do you think of Harry?
Well, I was going to say, I know his Harry Carey, his great grandson, is actually a sports announcer. He's about 22, 23 years old. I actually had a chance to talk with him just randomly once at a tournament. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. And at the end of talking, he just kind of casually mentioned, like, my great grandfather called baseball. I said, who's that? I said, it's Harry Carey. And here's Harry Canary.
In the flesh, baby. In the
flesh. Hey, Joey Zanaboni. How you doing?
Amazing.
Is your great grandfather the inventor of the Zanaboni?
No. My great grandfather did not invent the Zamboni, but happy he emigrated here in 1912 so I could be with you.
Good to be here. So, Joey, I heard about this yoga night at the ballpark and the Tao flutist music. Could you help me? Could you help guide me right now in a moment of zen?
Absolutely.
Can you be my yoga instructor right now? It's been a busy morning. The office is abuzz with the Joey Zanaboni news. And so we need to kind of calm things down.
Harry, there's going to be a big place for you in the booth, and we're going to have the Zen Garden going for you. Let's just take a long breath in and a long breath out.
It's making me thirsty.
Okay. We're all sitting on the edge of the muddy pool, Harry. And the more that we take the cup and try to clear the mud out, the dirtier the pool becomes.
Does the pool have Budweiser?
The pool is full of Budweiser. We just let the mud settle around the cans on the bottom. A long breath in, a long breath out.
I feel better already. So that was an incredible moment of Zen. I feel all blissed out, but here's another way to make you feel better. Pharmacy Specialties here in Sioux Falls. Actually, the second Thursday of every month is a day in which all over-the-counter items are 20% off. Call ahead anytime before we can have your order ready when you come in to pick it up on Super Thursday or any day after. It's Super Thursday. You must pay your order 20% off on Super Thursday, but we can hold it here for pickup later or ship it to you. If you spend more than $100 after the 20% discount, we can ship it to you for free. Our number to call and get 20% off on Super Thursday is 605-334-1672. That's 605-334-1672 for Pharmacy Specialties. Call now. Hey, guess what? I gotta get going. But I do want to let Joey Zanaboni know that he's crushing it like that exhausted mall store Santa, accidentally rolling over on the Cattiesman dressing as a miniature reindeer. You know where I heard that? From Joey Zanaboni. See you guys later. And there we go. Now you can understand, Joey, why Harry is not the host of the podcast. Small doses.
Special guest, small doses, but baby, in the pharmacy game, sometimes it's not about small doses. Sometimes it's about those big old doses, right?
That is correct, sir. So, we appreciate Pharmacy Specialties for hopping on after the first few podcasts. And again, it's Joey Zanaboni. He is the new voice of the Sioux Falls Canaries, and hopefully some fun with Harry in the booth a few times this year as well during the Birds broadcasts. So
absolutely.
Where were we? Yeah. Where were we exactly?
Well, I think we were talking about some of the very exciting things that are going on in Sioux Falls, right? We've got a little bit covered about non-human broadcasters. Not to insult Harry Canary like that, but we're trying to have a few dogs on the broadcast this year. I think we got some great guests lined up, and I want to put this out to the Sioux Falls community. If you've got anything wild that you can do, if you can pop your shoulder out of your socket and make it look good for TV, I'd love to have you on the broadcast. I'd love to be in every single person's home in some special way. So if you have a special message that you ever want read out, I do draw the line at Amber Alerts. I make sure those are handled just by the authorities. If you're sending in an Amber Alert, don't worry, baby. We already got it. We got smartphones. But anything other than that, happy birthday, happy half birthday, happy quarter birthday, happy 1 month anniversary. Why have you not called me? Please call me. I can get a little dicey too, but please send those messages in, and I'd be happy to include as many community members as we can in some way, shape, or form on this great broadcast.
That's terrific. I think being all inclusive in your broadcast booth, but also at the stadium, is going to serve us well. Not that we haven't been, but we want the new brand of the Canaries, the new identity to kind of be, boldness, brightness, fun.
that everybody's going to enjoy. You're going to come away from the ballpark, if not having your breath taken away, wanting to come back, remembering that experience. And you fit into all of that, as we have mentioned. What got you specifically into baseball, in the baseball calling? Where did this and when did this start for you? Let's just kind of do a Joey deep dive background.
Yeah, well, it's a story of American innocence, really. I used to play quite a bit of baseball with my brother in our backyard, and I would throw him the ball so he could kind of make a leaping catch at the wall. And we narrated probably 500 or 600 of those sequences. I would go crazy when he'd bring one back. And I was very inspired by the great tradition of my hometown of St. Louis. I'm here in my mobile recording studio in St. Louis. It's a basement of a house, but hey, if you put a little set of wheels of the house, you might be able to move it. So I call it mobile. And there's just such a great, tremendous tradition here in St. Louis, where I am right now, with Jack Buck, Joe Garagiola, Yogi Berra. My grandfather grew up in the Italian-American section of St. Louis, the Hill, and he was friends and neighbors with Joe Garagiola and Yogi Berra. And some of the stories that he told about them to me when I was growing up were quite inspirational. And then I think, I was lucky enough to be a Cardinal fan for the tail end of Jack Buck's career. But really, for me, most of my life, it was, and still is for one final season, the great Mike Shannon, who I believe is the most underrated broadcaster in the history of Major League Baseball. He's someone who represents personal charm, who represents tremendous knowledge of the game, and he just has a lot of fun doing the games. And I think that that always is the standard. How much fun did they have? And I was fortunate enough as well, I think stylistically, maybe even more than Mike Shannon, to listen to Ken Wilson, who was the St. Louis Blues broadcaster and did work with the Cardinals and did work with the Seattle Mariners. And as far as technical announcing goes, and just quote unquote broadcast fundamentals, voice, I believe he really was just about the perfect sports announcer. He was amazing. And I really think, unfortunately, the Blues have not been the same since on their broadcast side. Not that their team doesn't do a great job right now, but he was just a terrific presence. And so being able to listen to all those people and just grow up around sports, just grow up around the solid tradition here in St. Louis and some of the professional teams, the great collegiate teams we have in the area, it just seemed like it would be a lot of fun. And, I almost didn't go into it. Kind of after I got out of high school, I was a little bit like, I'm not sure if I want to do this with my life, but, someone who is really inspirational to me still is Bob Dylan. And I see the work that I do in sports announcing, traveling around with different teams, going to different cities, just meeting different people, becoming part of different communities. I see it as being in that tradition of Bob Dylan, Jack Kerouac, Neil Cassidy, Ken Kesey, people of that nature who were literary heroes of the mid 20th century, who believed in small communities, who believed in the power of the American road to shape spiritual meaning in your life and things like that. So I started to see sports announcing from that side of kind of the American troubadour, the American poet, and it kind of reinvigorated my sense of wanting to do it, of desire to do it. And so I ended up pursuing it, and that's kind of the line that I still think about as I kind of keep working and keep partnering with different teams is how can you build your own version of American road poetry? It's just one of my goals. So I think that's kind of the in a nutshell, kind of my background on why I do this, why I like doing this.
Right. Well, I mean, you can go chronologically, or you can bounce around however you'd like to on that theme you were just presenting. Where was your first gig, and then just explain everywhere else you've been, because you've been to a lot of places. You've hit the road
a lot of places. Yeah.
And places that are a little off the beaten path, and some beautiful places, but a very diverse listing of things to where we're part of Migos. Boy, that'd be kind of fun. That'd be a fun place to live. And I know the experiences, the cultures are all different. So just give us more where it started and where it went.
Yeah, purposefully so. I've bounced around quite a bit because I see sports announcing as an opportunity to see America. And here in this great country of ours, we can sometimes lose perspective on what America really is. I was reminded by a friend just about a week or so ago that the entire country of Germany could fit within the state of Montana. And we forget how large this country is and how many different communities there are and how different these places can be. And so that's been such a joy for me. Really, the joy in many ways of sports announcing has just been seeing the breadth and the depth of America. And I started that journey from St. Louis to Derby, Kansas, which is just outside of Wichita, Kansas. In the summer of 2014, I was with the Derby Twins of the Jayhawk Collegiate League. And from there, I was hired by the River City Rascals to finish out their season. So that's back in the St. Louis area. And the Frontier League is mostly concentrated right there in Missouri and Illinois. There's some teams as far away as Washington, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. So it's a little far flung, but mostly concentrated there in the Midwest, and ended up working with the Rockford Aviators as well of the Frontier League in 2015. And 2016 through 18 in the summers, working with the Texas Airhawks. And finally in 2019, working with the Johnson City Cardinals of the Appalachian League. In the last year, they were affiliated with the St. Louis Cardinals, my hometown team, and having a chance to cover them as they won the final ever Appalachian League title was a true joy. It was true magic, really one of the highest honors of my life. But I've also put quite a bit of track down on the collegiate side. And so I've worked at Coahoma Community College. That's in Clarksdale, Mississippi, the world capital of blues music in the Mississippi Delta. Worked with the University of West Florida and Pensacola, Florida, right there. Floribama, just about 15 minutes, 20 minutes from the Alabama border in the great state of Florida. And then as well in San Antonio, Texas with St. Mary's University in San Antonio. And, I think for me, of all the places that I've been, and I guess that's sort of the rundown, the one that's been the most meaningful for me has been Clarksdale, Mississippi. For me, it's actually the place that I've worked, quote unquote, the longest. Worked there for 3 academic years as the sports information director and broadcaster. I worked at the only historically Black junior college in the state of Mississippi and learned an incredible amount about the culture in Coahoma County, Mississippi at Coahoma Community College. Learned quite a bit about the struggles as well as the joys of the African-American community that makes up that area. Clarksdale is about 85% African-American. Coahoma Community College is about 98% African-American. And so for me, it was an incredible, irreplaceable learning experience that also encompassed quite a bit of education about the history of blues music and blues music culture, where that came from, and some of the mysteries and some of the myths, some of the tales around it, whether it's the legend of Robert Johnson, who sold his soul while being pursued by hellhounds. He sold his soul to the devil to play the guitar unlike any other man before, or other legends that were born, really in that time. And I just was able to see so many great, musicians in the modern day. It's a completely different way of looking at life. It's a completely different experience than anything I had. And it was a tremendous privilege to be a part of. And I still really take the lessons that I learned there about, everything: personal relationships, sports, entertainment, announcing, media, sports information, all of this stuff. I had an opportunity to learn and grow so much. And I think that I can never really repay the people there for helping to put me on a distinct path on my journey. I think that I took that job, and I'm not sure there were a lot of people who maybe would have recommended that I take it. It was a community college, and I don't know, maybe it wasn't going to do something for my career, quote unquote. Maybe I should have held out for like a radio station gig or a television gig. And I kind of just had a feeling that I would learn more from doing it. And I think I ended up being right. I think I learned a lot more about American culture, a lot more about life than I have any other place.
Wow. Well, I mean, for one, there's a kindred spiritship there. One of my favorite classes, which I thought was just kind of a big write-off, screw-off class in college, was History of American Jazz, because the blues were rooted in jazz, and there's quite a few stories to tell, and a lot of it obviously originated in the Delta, in Mississippi, the New Orleans area, and sprouted to the rest of the country. And it was much more than a music class. It was much more than listening to tunes and hearing how they developed and then evolved into other genres of music. It was definitely a cultural experience. And that, right when I turned 21, that got to making the Zoo Bar in Lincoln, which is a blues bar, one of my favorite places, because all the great blues artists, jazz artists, the last 50 years have been there. And and then you go to Kansas City, and of course we have the Kansas City team in our league. The history, I think it's the American Jazz Museum, is right next door to, it's a part of the Negro League Baseball Museum. And that was a pleasant surprise. My husband and I went there about 10 years ago, and we were just, we had heard the Negro League Baseball Museum is cool. You should go, if you like baseball, you should check it out. And I'm guessing you've been, but you walk in there, it's in this historically Black neighborhood of Kansas City, and that we knew nothing about. And it is not, you're not forced to do anything. You can go walk right into the baseball museum, but you're suggested to watch a video of about 10 minutes about the history of the 19th or 18th and Vine district there, where all this started, how much great baseball and music and business came out of this place. And we don't have to get into it. It was very moving, especially to my husband, who is African American. And it's much more a part of the fabric of our daily lives, even here in the Midwest and everywhere. Traditional, people who are Caucasian and would never know it. It's a fascinating study in culture, and that's really cool that you got to live it through baseball and your work and your job. And it's got to bring a lot to every place you've been ever since, including here.
Oh, certainly. And speaking of the NLBM, I think it's such a great part of the American Association in 2021 to have the Kansas City team partnering with the NLBM and renaming the Kansas City T-Bones in honor of the great Kansas City Monarchs. And I think that's such a great idea. I think that's such a tremendous partnership that's going to add so much depth to the league. So I was very, very excited to hear that. And honestly, though, we're a completely different franchise. We're Sioux Falls, 5 hours away or 4.5 hours away. The fact that Kansas City did that made me in some ways want to come back to the league. There was just sort of something about it. It was a signifier to me that the American Association is thinking about diversity, is thinking about honoring all aspects of the game and honoring what is unfortunately a forgotten piece of baseball history. And I just am very, very excited that the American Association, as well as the new ownership group in Kansas City, has decided to go in that direction.
Yeah. And, we're hoping one of the promotional night ideas we have kicked around that I'm hoping we do, and I don't think there's anything stopping us, is when the Monarchs do visit Sioux Falls, is to have a Negro League appreciation night of some sort that could be educational and fun. So that's that's all tremendous.
I think that one of the things that I think about with the American Association as well is the great tribute that was done for Satchel Paige at historic Lawrence Dumont Stadium in Wichita. And that was something every year when we'd visit Wichita with the Airhogs, when I visited it for the National Congress Baseball Tournament, things like that. I really wanted to go and see that memorial and that tribute that they had for him at Lawrence Dumont. Now that Lawrence Dumont is not around anymore, I think it's something that I was sort of like, I'm going to miss that. So I want the other teams around the league, around the association, to kind of help pick up that slack and to really make it part of our everyday remembrance of baseball history.
Yeah. Well, so I guess if people thought they were getting a podcast here about just baseball and the Canaries' new announcer and announcing, you got a little bit of that in the beginning, but this is the good stuff to me. And don't worry, we're going to ask Joey Zanaboni about his craziest or worst moments on the air as a broadcaster in baseball.
Well, we could just get to those right now. Sure.
we could. But what I want to do is tie it together, like the rug in the dude's apartment in Big Lebowski, from where we've been the last several minutes to where we'll head toward the end of this is something I also have captured from you in our few conversations about you hopping out with the Canaries, but also where we're headed as an organization and as a part of Sioux Falls. Mm-hmm. The encouraging thing about both our new owners and you is and not that this wasn't there before, but a newfound from the outside now coming into the Birdcage, an attitude of being a part of the community and being in the community. We want the community to come here. I mean, there's very few other places in Sioux Falls or in any city, big or small, but certainly in medium-sized cities like Sioux Falls, where a baseball game, especially on the warm months where we're all happy and outdoor, we're happy people. We're complaining about the weather most of the year. Yeah. Most of our games are during the time of the year where people are just so happy to be outside. What better place is there besides an outdoor music concert, right, to get a whole bunch of people from all different parts of the city and area together and to enjoy something. So we're going to try to enhance the enjoyment of the experience, but also it's what we do. We want to do some things at the game and then after the game to be a part of and get into the community. And you've already tossed around some great ideas that were plucked from some of your crazy, zany promotional night ideas. And what do you hope to bring as far as the connection to the community?
Yeah, I think it's more important than ever that America heals and that people come together around common interests. And one of the things that's been just, one of the drawbacks, I guess you would call it, of the pandemic is that we're not able to get together around sporting events. And so I want people from all different walks of life, young and old, across every demographic, to be able to come out to the Birdcage and feel like they're ready just to have a good time, just to have fun. It's not a place where you should come and feel like you're going to be uncomfortable for any reason whatsoever. This is a second home for you. This is a place where you're meeting your best friends, where you can bring your family, where you can find some aspect of baseball that appeals to you. And I think that we're at kind of a crossroads in baseball in general, where baseball has become maybe a little less of an entertainment product and more of just a math problem. People are sort of self-dividing into these camps of hardcore fans and casual fans and longtime fans versus new fans. And I hope that what we can build in Sioux Falls shows that there's really no division between us. We're all people who are out here to enjoy a great game. And I plan to be out in the community, talking with the community, helping the community, involved in service projects, involved in the civic life. I want to be at the Sioux Falls Rotary Club. I want to be at the bowling alleys talking about Sioux Falls Canaries baseball. And if I can't be there in person over the course of the season, I want them to have an American Association baseball TV subscription so that they're playing it down at the bowling alley. They're playing it down at the local Applebee's. There's that thing that's never far from my mind. I want those things, on TV. I want games to be on TV so that when you're at home and you're not able to make a game, if we're on the road or you can't make it down to the Birdcage, I want you to think about flipping on the Sioux Falls Canaries game in the same way you might flip on a Chicago Cubs game or a St. Louis Cardinals game, or just see what's on ESPN. I think we have the technical capability to do that. I think we have a great looking video stream, and I'm here to entertain you. I'm here to have fun, and I'm here to just bring a little joy to your life and bring a little joy to your night, regardless of what's happening on the field, whether we're winning 7-0, losing 7-0. I don't think this team's going to be losing a lot of games, 7-0, but it's a 100-game season. Things do happen. I'm going to bring that same level of joy because I want you to feel like you've got a friend in me. And I think that it's an exciting time for the Canaries. This is a fresh start. And as far as the American road goes, that's what we're all after.
All right. That's all very well said and poignant. It'd be a great place to end it. But what
now for your worst moments ever?
Well, those are always more fun and interesting than the best ones, aren't they?
Sure.
I mean, you can share both. It's not like we're on a pitch count here or a time count, but it doesn't have to be best or worst, just most interesting. I'm just figuring you've had a few, like all of us, have been involved in all kinds of different levels and towns in sportscasting. There's weird places to broadcast from. There's a bunch of weird things that happen while you're on the air. Usually, obviously, the times that you don't expect it. So, what sticks out?
Well, yeah, I've had a lot of twists and turns through the years. I've had a lot of crazy type of stories. I do think I have a Sioux Falls one that was interesting. Is in 2018, I had been with the Airhawks for a couple of seasons, and shortly before the season, the organization announced that it had been purchased by a Chinese steel conglomerate called Beijing Shogun Steel. And so I went from announcing for the Airhawks, which was kind of your usual collection of independent league players, maybe half to 2/3 who had played, high A, double A, kind of a higher level of affiliated minor league baseball, to working with a team that was 2/3. The roster became 2/3 the Chinese Olympic baseball team roster. And so just pretty much pivoting to a completely new deal, going from the Texas Airhawks to being the Texas Airhawks powered by Beijing Shogun Eagles, was really incredible. I mean, it was really something that seemed a little bit surreal. We actually had, a typical American Association roster, I believe, is 23. So when I say 2/3, that would maybe imply that maybe 14, 15 were players from the Chinese national team. We actually had, I think, 40 to 45 Chinese players who would fill those roster spots. They were able to rotate in. They had a roster exemption from the league that allowed them to just rotate into those 14 or 15 roster spots. And so I just ended up meeting probably about 50 to 60 people from China, players, coaches, support staff, who were on their own sort of journey of the American road. And it was fascinating. They were very innocent. They were people who maybe didn't have the same outlook toward independent baseball that maybe a lot of the American players had. For example, there was a magazine article that was done about the Chinese national team and talking about them working with the Airhawks. And I remember our center fielder, Song Yun Chi, said, when I walked into the Airhawks locker room and saw that jersey hanging up in my locker, that was the greatest moment of my life. And having been with the team through a 34-65 season, a 43-57 season, and seeing probably about 100 players in my first 2 years kind of rotate in and out of the Airhawks roster, I had grown more accustomed to people saying, I walked into the Airhawks locker room, saw the Airhawks jersey hanging up in the locker, and that was the worst moment of my life. I realized that I had hit the bottom of the barrel. And so to have people, basically completely flip that script and say, I'm really proud to do this and to be here, was really, it was refreshing. in a way that wasn't just about baseball. It was kind of seeing people who were trying to forge their own identity in a sport that maybe wasn't really understood in their own country. Even it's a very unique situation, and they ended up doing it for 2 years, and now the Airhogs have folded. But in China, baseball's not really a popular sport. It's not something that a lot of people know about or go to games. Though there's a small community. It's very much a niche sport, maybe like handball or something is here. And so, just to see them go a long way from their home in order to try to get better and have this experience, and to see the way that the players and the coaches came to understand more about the game, came to understand more about America.
Yeah.
It really was quite moving. And though we finished 25-75, which is not a great record, there was some more to it, because I really do think that on both sides, the American side and the Chinese side, when we kind of came together a week before the season, there's some preconceived notions that each side had about the other. And, is this how it's going to be? Is that how it's going to be? And over the course of the summer and just traveling together and going through the whole schedule and all this stuff, and overcoming the normal kind of bumps and bruises of a long summer, those differences really melted away, and people came together in a way that was much more meaningful. And part of it was being in Sioux Falls in late June. We had lost, I think, about 10 straight series to start the season, 10 to 12 straight series to start the season. And we came back to beat the Sioux Falls Canaries in our series in late June, right at the Birdcage. Gan Shuan, who was our starter in the last game, was able to just do a great job. He battled all afternoon to keep us in it, and we ended up storming back against the Canaries. And then former Texas Airhawk from 2016, Burt Reynolds, hit a home run in the bottom of the ninth in a 5-3 game to make it 5-4. And we just barely hung on. We secured the victory, and we got on a bus and shot up to Fargo for the next series. And the mood was joyous. We were so celebratory. And unfortunately, we got swept in Fargo, but there was, still that one moment for us against Sioux Falls in Sioux Falls. And so that was actually part of the journey. Of course, now I root for the Sioux Falls Canaries. But I think as far as unique situations go, I think that was about as unique a situation as possibly could be conceived. I've had the chance to work with a lot of people from a lot of different countries all over the world. I've actually worked with Geelong, Korea, which is a South Korean baseball team that plays in the Australian Baseball League. And,
all right.
Had a chance to call a series for them early 2020, right before the pandemic. And
Joey, hang on. I'm just going to make sure you keep talking. I'm just leaving the frame because I need to plug in my phone so it won't die.
Oh, okay.
In the middle of this story. So go ahead. Keep going.
Let me just, And, but with that season, with the Airhogs powered by Beijing Shogun Eagles, truly to me, that was very special and very unique, just because I do think that, again, unlike maybe the team from South Korea, the Beijing Shogun Eagles were in a much different position because in their own country, it just is not really that popular a sport. Whereas in South Korea, baseball is extraordinarily popular, and it was just sort of a different deal. So I definitely appreciated that summer. I definitely learned quite a bit, and I think that would be maybe the most unique kind of broadcasting situation I was ever in.
Sounds, terrific, and to follow it up with not nearly the breadth of that experience, a whole couple. Well, was that one season with the Chinese guys, or was it both summers, or just one summer?
Yeah, so I worked with them in 2018, and then I ended up after that year getting hired by the Johnson City Cardinals. So I worked with them for one, and then they came back for a second year with kind of a little bit of a different kind of a deal. There was a new manager and maybe some other changes, maybe about sort of like roster. So I don't think they brought as many players with them, but I believe they were going to come back in 2020, and just obviously with all the pandemic protocols and all that, the season just did not end up happening, and unfortunately the Airhogs just folded right after that.
Right. What I was gonna say to follow was just I had about 4 or 5 days. Again, my husband Gilbert, who's lived in Sioux Falls for 25 years, has worked at the same hotel as an assistant manager of it for had been for about 10 or 11 years. And he had 4 Chinese foreign exchange students come into Sioux Falls. And I don't know how it happened, but they just landed. This was their job. The Sioux Falls was the place where they were, where they would spend their summer in America, and working at that hotel was their job. And through everything they did, they just couldn't have been more appreciative. And of simple things. They enjoyed working at the hotel, whether it was folding sheets or cleaning the pool. They did, we went out to the Black Hills with them for about 4 days out in western South Dakota. And there are places in our country that are a little bit more majestic. I mean, the Black Hills are beautiful. I love going out there every year. They're a gem of South Dakota. But and they're from China, where there's giant mountains as well. They lived, in, I believe it was Beijing, but it was one of the major Chinese cities. I feel awful for not remembering which one. On the beach. I mean, they had a beach, they had mountains, and yet they being here, they're going to Pactola Lake in the Black Hills on a Wednesday afternoon, just driving through the Black Hills where there was nobody out at the lake but us. I mean, to them, all of that was just, it was literally a breath of fresh air for them.
Yeah.
And they were just so fun to be around because everything was relaxing and everything was a wonderment to them. Every new experience was, including coming to a Canaries game. I think their first night here, we took them to a Canaries game, and they're just a joy to be around.
And to loop it back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, I actually had a chance to visit the Negro League Baseball Museum for the first time with the Chinese national baseball team. We kind of took a side trip while we were in town playing the then Kansas City T-Bones to go and visit the NLBM. And they had quite a bit of appreciation for that aspect of history. And there is quite a bit of appreciation really across Asia and Asian baseball for some of those forgotten heroes of baseball history, like Satchel Paige and Buck O'Neill and Josh Gibson and all these guys. In fact, I believe that one of the major donors, one of the largest donors to the NLBM, is Ichiro Suzuki. And so they have a very unique take on what baseball is. In Asia, I think they do see it as much more of a worldwide game that encompasses many different cultures in a way that I think sometimes it's easy to sort of forget in America, where we've been kind of conditioned to just zone in on the major leagues and just, what kind of the official sort of history of the major leagues is. And so just exploring that aspect of baseball history through their perspective was a really important day for us, and a day that I really felt like I was able to understand much more about them as people and gain a greater appreciation for what baseball can do across cultures.
Wow. This was not a place I expected us to go, but that's what this is all about.
That's right. What, Duell Higbe doesn't give you this kind of stuff?
What's that?
Duell Higbe doesn't give you this kind of stuff?
Duell has some stories to tell.
Sure.
He has a lot of really good stories about the birdcage. But I would, I not being able to speak on his behalf, probably not. Well, we've said a lot, we've done a lot here. Is there anything else as we wind down? Because we've obviously gone through the kind of your essence and your phrases and where they came from, what it's going to be like in the Canaries booth, what do you want out of it, but certainly broadening beyond the booth and how you want to be a part of the team and the town and what it's all going to be about here this summer. Is there anything else? Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think I'm just appreciative of you taking the time to do this podcast, John, and for all the great efforts that you've made so far for the 2021 season. I think we've got some unbelievable ideas for in-stadium promos that we're going to be rolling out over the course of the next month to 2 months. I think that we've got some great relationships that we've built in the community, and I think we got a heck of a team. I've been able to see a handful of these guys play personally. I know that they really are as good as really anybody you're going to find in the American Association. Jabari, some of these longtime Canaries who have done it for many years. I look at other people that we're adding, Caleb Frere. It's the big boys here. This is going to be a team that's going to be contending for a championship. And I thoroughly believe, and I completely believe that we can win the 2021 American Association Championship. I believe that this is going to be a team that's talented enough to do it. Obviously, there's a lot that has to happen, things that have to go right. But I believe that this team is going to be in position to do it. So if you're a fan of the on-field stuff and you just want to see great baseball, people going out there throwing strikes, putting balls in play, running the bases well, I think Mike and his staff are, again, as good as anybody you're going to find in the American Association. They're going to put them in a position to win. And if you're just out there to have a good time and you don't even want to know what inning it is, more than welcome as well. In fact, you're going to be celebrated. You're going to find something great for your tastes at the stadium. And heck, I identify that when I'm not calling a game. A lot of times I'll show up at a high school baseball game or a Major League Baseball game just to kind of hear the crack of the bat. And I won't even know what inning it is. I won't even know what the score is. I'll barely know who they are. I just like that feeling of being out there in the sunshine or on a pleasant evening at the ballpark. And so I want to really encourage those fans as well who don't really know anything about the American Association, who don't know anything about heck, even if you don't know anything about baseball, even if you can't tell a ball from a strike, make sure you come out to the ballpark, because I think that we have a staff that's thinking along the lines of how can we make this the most welcoming, most fun environment in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I think we're going to be successful in doing that. I think we're putting in the right work, and we have the right collection of personalities to make this the greatest summer in Canaries history. So please come on out, and when you're out, drop me a line, give me a wave from the stands, shoot me a message live on the air. So could not be more excited, John.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of the fit that I didn't explain at the very beginning that we can wrap it up with is, you're right. This team should be pretty damn good. And it was a lot more fun this last year after a few losing years, more than a few. To have a bunch of wins and rallies at the ballpark at the end of the game, people walking out, those who do care about the baseball are satisfied, because it shouldn't, because it's about a lot more than baseball. We get tired of hearing baseball's too boring for us to go to a game. We're here to provide some things for you that will make it well worth your while, that you will have a lot of fun that are beyond the baseball. But I did notice it was easier to get it was easy for Harry Canary to get the fans engaged and the rallies going when there were two strikes.
Oh yeah,
you're trying to strike the guy out.
When they're winning, everything's easy.
When they're winning, yeah,
when they're winning, everything's easy.
Exactly, and it's more fun. But it's going to be fun no matter what. And the cool thing is a lot of hits and a lot of runs are going to be scored. There's a lot of baseball action at the Birdcage because of its build. It's a bandbox. It's got some quirks to it. It's got some weird bounces to it. And Mike's done a good job. I don't want to dive into the details of finding some players both in hitting, fielding, and pitching that are made for that are made to either enhance that or in some pitcher's case be a force against it, like Caleb Frere, who's great at getting teams out of jams, because sometimes your team fly balls or home runs here, and no lead is really safe. And anybody who comes out here knows that. So even if you don't really like baseball, or even here for the baseball, we hope there are a lot of people who aren't here. They're here just to have fun, and baseball's the background. That's been me as a casual baseball fan for a long time before I joined the club. No, you're probably going to get some good baseball action. There's just going to be a lot of hits and runs. It's the nature of the park. So you, my friend, are going to have a lot of fun to call for the 56 games that will be here. So
lock it, cock it, rock it, restock it, baby. I love the birdcage. I love the birdcage. I've seen so many balls fly out of there. And it presents some challenges for pitchers, but as far as a fan's perspective goes, I mean, you gotta want to see teams score runs. I know there are fans out there who say, "Well, I went to a 1-0 game and there were 3 hits, and it's the greatest game I've ever seen in my life." Yeah, I mean, I listen. I agree with you, but those are only great when you've had 5 games around it that are at least solid run, production and getting some runs on the board. If everything was 1-0, that wouldn't be as special to see. So I think from a casual fan's perspective, I think it's the ideal place to see a game. And I just love the weather up there as well in the summer. I think it's just so pleasant. I do think that that's maybe one of the advantages the American Association has, is playing in these cities where the up north, Fargo and Sioux Falls and Sioux City and Winnipeg, and obviously in the past St. Paul, where people want to come out to the ballpark. And from my perspective, I'm like, I don't even have to bring another shirt. When I was down in Texas, I'd show up to the stadium with 3 shirts. I'd sweat through, at least 2 during the day and then during the game. So I think that's another plus. But these fans in Sioux Falls are tremendous, and they're going to have a great time.
All right, Joey. Well, I appreciate your time, and we'll be looking forward to just a fun season at the ballpark with a lot of your ideas. He's not just going to be the radio guy, folks. That's going to be a big fun part of it. But a lot of the things will be rolling out here in the coming month or two and throughout the season. Joey's going to be a big thing behind it, and we cannot wait. It's
going to be great. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Joey. And a reminder, a big thank you again to our friends at Pharmacy Specialties. Second Thursday of every month, the day in which all over-the-counter items 20% off. Call ahead anytime before, so we can have your order ready when you come to pick it up on Super Thursday or any day after. You must pay for your order 20% off on Super Thursday, but we can hold it here for pickup later or ship it to you. If you spend more than $100 after the 20% discount, Pharmacy Specialties can ship it to you for free. Number to call to get 20% off. Super Thursday, 605-334-1672. That's 605-334-1672. For Joey Zanaboni, Duell Higbe, our general manager, and Harry Canary and our friends at Pharmacy Specialties, I'm John Gaskins. Can't wait to talk to you next time inside the Birdcage.